After surviving 8 consecutive heart attacks, the insecure Sellers now believed he was invincible. His near-death experience heightened an already obsessive interest in the paranormal.
He did feel, right, I've cheated death now, I'm invincible, because he thought he'd come back with some extra strength, like some science fiction hero.
In a taped interview with his biographer Peter Evans, Sellers claimed to have powers of premonition.
Do you have any premonitions about your life, the possible longevity or lack of it?
Yes, I shall live till I'm 75. And shall die in my sleep shortly after that. I knew all the time that I would never die during the Hollywood business.
He believed that. I mean, he absolutely believed that he had nothing to worry about until he was 74, then he should start worrying.
Despite the outward bravado, the shadow of death hung over him for the rest of his life.
I don't know whether his heart affected him in any way mentally. I'm sure it would. But physically, because of his ups and downs, that sort of thing, you could see him during the day, you could see him losing energy. His face would change colour. The blood would drain from it.
Sellers' fragile health worried producers, who were concerned he could be a liability.
In What's New Pussycat, Charles Feldman paid for the insurance of Peter out of his own money because nobody would insure Peter, and Peter thought at that time he would never work in feature films again.
What's New Pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Producer Charlie Feldman's gamble paid off. Sellers helped make What's New Pussycat one of the top-grossing films of the 1960s. Buoyed by this success, Feldman was keen to use Sellers in his next film, Casino Royale.
Charlie Feldman had enormous faith and trust in Peter and gave him his head based on What's New Pussycat. But you never give Peter his head. I mean, Peter would test friendship to destruction.
Feldman cast Sellers as James Bond, with Joe McGrath directing. They needed a heavyweight to cast as Sellers' archenemy in the film.
Peter was the one who had said it would be very good if we could get Orson Welles to play the part of Le Chiffre, who's the crook, in the casino. So Peter wanted that. He said it would be very good if we can get that. It'd be wonderful. He said to have Peter Sellers and Orson Welles in the same scene, in the same movie.
But when Orson Welles turned up, Sellers' attitude changed. He was intimidated, not only by Welles' awesome acting reputation, but by his renowned skills as a conjurer.
Orson Welles was a very accomplished conjurer, and he could do all the tricks. But Sellers saw him not as a conjurer, but as a magician. He was terrified that somehow Orson would use his magical powers to destroy his performance, if not himself. He became obsessed with this.
Sellers was gripped by paranoia. Too frightened to appear in the same shot as Welles, he fled the set. After 3 weeks, he was finally tracked down in Switzerland.
They threatened to sue him if he didn't come back. And then he said he would come back, but not if I was in the film, because he was too embarrassed as a friend to come back and work with me.
Joe McGrath wasn't Sellers' only victim during the making of Casino Royale.
Charlie Feldman said, Peter is determined to kill me. He wants to kill me. And a few months after the film was released, and it was a huge flop, Charlie Feldman indeed died. Now, these are strange stories, but they only become relevant or valid or understandable if you see it through the prism of Sellers' own obsession with death and with the occult and with spiritualism. Whether or not Charlie Feldman picked up those vibes from Peter, I don't know, but he was convinced that he would die because Sellers had kind of put a jinx on him.
It's very weird. It's like a sort of curse. People that go out of their way to bring bad things to me have great misfortune in their life. One man just died, suddenly.
Sellers was out of control. He derailed one of the most expensive films ever. Casino Royale was released in 1967. It was a critical year. One of Sellers' last restraining influences disappeared. His mother died. From the outset, Sellers and his mother, Peg, had an unusually close relationship. She had lost a baby son the year before Sellers was born.
I think all the baby clothes was still around, kept in tissue paper, or rather morbid, all that. So when our Peter Sellers, as it were, was born, his real name was Richard Henry Sellers. And his mother called him Peter because this was her replacement child.
As her only surviving child, Peg emotionally smothered her son, and even in adulthood found it hard to let him go.
When he went into the Air Force, so as to be near him, she moved down to the barracks, wherever it was, and she took a bed and breakfast place nearby to be near him. And she'd be at the gates, he said, very embarrassing. She would be actually at the gates, he said, when he came out. Very possessive, Peg.
A very claustrophobic woman. She used to, you have to hug her for half an hour every time you see her. Which was all right, except when she came to school to collect me. And she'd come and stand inside the gate. Couldn't you wait in the car? No, she'd come and stand inside the gate. Give me a hug, my darling. Oh, God.
Sellers' mother had been a potent influence when she was alive. Now dead, she began to exert a greater and more perverse power as her son pursued her through the afterlife.
Whenever you talk about Peter Sellers, you can't talk about him in any informed way without understanding his relationship, not with his living mother, which was a powerful relationship, but with his dead mother. And his dead mother continued to influence him and be with him and obsess him until the day Peter died.
Sellers' interest in second-guessing the future waned. He became fixated with the past. Out went the clairvoyants, including Maurice Woodruff, and in came mediums like Doris Collins, whom he hoped might provide that vital link with his dead mother.
I don't think his mother approved of all his capers, and so she was a restraining influence. And when she wasn't there, in the end, of course he hadn't got anybody to restrain him. So I think that's why he used me, I'm honest, because he thought I could restrain him and say it was his mother. And he believed that.
Where Sellers went, his dead mother went too. He created a shrine to Peg wherever he stayed. But Britt Eklund objected to sharing her bedroom in this way.
Finally, at the end of the marriage, Britt couldn't take it anymore, and she smashed this picture, smashed it into 1,000 pieces. Peter immediately, fell down on his knees and started trying to put it together, weeping at this smashed photograph.
He had this Anthony Perkins in Psycho thing going with his mother. I mean, they were weirdly close. Doubles of each other, actually. There's a split second in The Magic Christian where Sellers is made up as a nun, and he looks just like his mother.
Peter was in the dressing room. Somebody came to me and said, Peter would like to see you. So I went to see him, and he was sitting dressed as the nun. And he was looking in the mirror, and he said, "Who is it? Who is it, Joe?" And I said, "It's Peg." He said, "Yes, it's my mum."
Sellers' obsession with his mother was in part a search for security. He was desperate for the kind of roots that a superstar lifestyle denied him.
He wanted a secure home base. He wanted all those things, ideals that he dreamt of. Yet he as soon as things got sticky, he moved off somewhere else, well, I've had enough of this, and, you know, the neighbours are crap, so let's move on. You know, well, let's sell the car, the ashtray's full. I mean, it's, you know, it's move on, you escape.
He's always changing his cars, his cameras, his wives, his girlfriends, everything, every item, every possession was interchangeable and disposable, because no one really existed in the world except for himself.
He desperately needs to be left alone. He needs to be accepted as normal when he knows he's not. He knows the world of films won't allow him to be normal. So I've never seen him light a fire, make a cup of tea, put his slippers on, sit round a fireplace. All those primitive tribal things that give each of us a sense of warmth, they seem to be denied to him. And that's it. He has no fireplace.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. Hello? I said, it's Pete. It's Pete, Joe. I said, yes. He said, where am I? I said, what's the number on the phone? So he read the number on the phone to me. I said, you're at home. He said, oh, thank God for that, and hung up.
He continued his search for security and inner peace, dabbling in every available 60s cult. For some, it was fashion. For Sellers, it was a mission.
He tried everything, and he was into all that, you know, long hair and beads and the Beatles, all that George Harrison stuff.
There was a point where he went to pray for peace in Ireland with a highly painted aeroplane and some Indian fellow in there, saw me this, that, or the other. You know, I mean, again, I saw most of those guys as charlatans, saying much the same as Maurice Woodruff with a different clothes on. You know, same rubbish, different man.
I think he was an unhappy, miserable sort of man, because I think he'd lost track of who he really was, and all these strange abstracts were the nearest he got to understanding where he was.
In 1969, Sellers married third wife Miranda Quarry. They moved to Ireland as tax exiles to protect Sellers' dwindling fortune. He hadn't made a bankable movie in 5 years.
He was pretty far gone on marijuana most of the time. I think he wasn't in his right mind when he was in Ireland, whatever his right mind was like anyway. He was always wandering back from the hereafter to now and having conversations, as all these boundaries, which normally keep people sane, you know, reality, fantasy, dreams, being awake, life, death, all these other things which for most of us are pretty fixed. Sellers would wander around them all these different states.
He locked himself away in a room once and shaved all his hair off. He cut it all off with scissors and it was all spiky, and he just said he was going through a black period.